the read on this with one of the smartest legal minds I know, who was kind enough to phone into us here and give us his read on all of this, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, what do you think?
Well, I think, Neil, that the president will probably stop referring to the Mueller investigation as a witch hunt conducted by 13 angry Democrats. This is very, very substantial and very real, and as you just indicated, and as our colleague Edward Lawrence just laid out, this is very high up the food chain in the military and intelligence complex of the Russian army. It is quite literally inconceivable that the person the president's meeting with on Monday, Vladimir Putin, did not know about this. So where does this leave us criminally? Well, you just pointed out that there probably won't be a trial because you don't have trials in absentia in the United States, and they would need to get these guys here. They'll never come here voluntarily, nor will Putin send them here. But this is the long, slow, steady march of Bob Mueller peeling back the onion, so to speak, of what happened between the Russians and the American election. The next question will be, did any Americans knowingly cooperate? Here's why the statute requires the government to prove knowledge. A lot of Americans ignorantly cooperated because they didn't know who they were dealing with. The question now is, did any Americans knowingly cooperate? And if they did, who are they and where are they and when will they be indicted?
You know, another thing, Judge, if this involves stealing information of upwards of 500,000 American voters, we don't know where these voters were centered, what states they were in, you know, how they connected to the DNC or Hillary Clinton's campaign. A lot we don't know. What we do know, though, is, and this is just my conjecture here, so feel free to shoot it down as you often politely do. Is there any sense you have that this has made Mr. Mueller bulletproof now, that it would be unwise at the very least to disband his investigation or him or hurry it along when now he could say, I've got the goods on all of these Russian agents and these Russian operatives, whether I seize them or get a chance to talk to them here or anywhere. If you shut that down, you do great harm to this country.
I could not agree with you more. You're so astute at analyzing these legal issues, almost as astute as you are at analyzing economic issues.
So when it comes to pronouncing Russian names.
But I'll tell you what also makes Mueller bulletproof, and that's the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. They can't lay a glove on Mueller while the Kavanaugh nomination is pending. But this one, which will take far longer to come to maturity than the nomination of Kavanaugh, does make him bulletproof, does remove the witch hunt, does remove the president's sort of pejorative, in-your-face criticisms of Mueller. Be very anxious to hear how he responds to it. This is very serious stuff. This is an attack on democracy. It's an attack on one of the two candidates intended to aid the other candidate. We need to know who knew about this and who facilitated it.
You know, Judge, we're learning that, I'm reading from the indictment, that conspirators created fictitious online personas, including D.C. Leagues, Guccifer 2.0, what you've reported on in the past. So this was a fairly involved operation and a strategy. To what end?
Apparently to the end of assuring that Donald Trump would win. Now, Rosenstein has said we can't find that there was any effect on the outcome. Trump was going to win anyway. These people didn't know that, but they had their druthers, and their druthers were that they didn't want Hillary Clinton in the White House. So they personally attacked her email and the email of the DNC. I don't know if the indictment yet lists the amount of money involved, but you're talking about an operation that could only have spent tens of millions of dollars of Russian government money that could not have been authorized or spent without the approval from the highest levels, including likely Putin himself.
I wanted you're a great legal read, if you can get in my little boring world of markets. And I'm interpreting from the gain right now, Judge, they think that since no Americans were sort of scooped up in this series of indictments, and that Rod Rosenstein is saying it did not alter the election outcome, that the president's safe, that there are no need to worry, that there's no need to worry. What do you think of that?
Well, I can't analyze the market the way you do. But I can say that this is not good news for the president. because this removes one or two of his most potent attacks. You know, Fox News had a poll that came out just yesterday showing that Mueller's credibility has been undermined significantly, and more than half the country wants this investigation over with. I dare say that poll would be calculated differently after what we now know has been made public. This is a serious march by Mueller in the direction of finding out what happened in the 2016 election, and I think he has a lot more marching to do.
Interesting. Judge, always a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to call in.
Thank
We
you, Neil.
very much
Have a
appreciate
good weekend,
that.
my friend.
You too, my friend.